Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Owen, the Get Some podcast. And my guest this week is...
This motherfucker Gary.
Hey, thank you to our sponsor, BlueChew. They say first impressions are important. What about lasting impressions? That's where BlueChew comes in. BlueChew helps give men longer lasting and stronger erections so you can perform at your very best. BlueChew wants you to have the confidence to perform at your best so you discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Try BlueChew free when you use promo code GETSOME at checkout. You pay $5 for shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code GETSOME to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank BlueChew for sponsoring the podcast. Bang. What's up, everybody? This is Gary Owen, Get Some podcast. We'll start off with my schedule. Got a lot to talk about this week. This Friday, November 1st, I'm in Atlantic City, New Jersey at Harrah's Resort. I believe it's sold out. You might want to call. They might be able to slide you in. A lot of times people don't realize, like, casinos and sometimes comedy clubs, they'll sell out and then they'll hold, like a lot of times comics have comp tickets and they'll hold like 20 seats for us, let's say. And then they'll ask us like the day of or the day before, like, are you going to be using all your comps? And I rarely use 20. I can't remember last time I used 20 tickets, but I'm like, nah, I'm only using 4. And they'll release some seats. So just so you know, it's sold out. But if you're in the Atlantic City area, maybe you got a shot. And then November 2nd, I'm at Live Casino. That's in Hanover, Maryland, which is basically Baltimore. Love that venue. We did it last year at this time. It's a great spot. So yeah, if you're in Baltimore or the DMV area, November 2nd, come out. November 4th, I'm in Tacoma at Nate Jackson's Super Funny Comedy Club. Like I said, we're doing the first Monday of every month out there because me and him have our own new podcast, the Gary and Nate podcast, which has new episodes every Wednesday. And so I fly out there once a month. I do his comedy club to work on some new stuff. Just make the trip worth it. A little extra cash, puts my face out in the area, and then me and Nate do our podcast while I'm there. We usually record like 4 episodes when I'm out there. So, and then I got a week off. I'm actually taking a week off for myself. And then November 15th, I'm at the Soundboard at Motor City Casino in Detroit, Michigan. November 16th, I'm at the venue at the Horseshoe Casino in Hammond, Indiana, which is kind of Gary, Indy, Chicago. It's like all 3 in 1. So yeah, that's going to be a big one, November 16th. And then November 24th, for the first time in the history of my life, I'm in Morgantown, West Virginia at the Marriott Waterfront Place. I'll have the mailman with me, T-Row, my guy. The mailman actually be with me in Hammond, Indiana, and Morgantown. So that's where I'm at the next couple weeks. So I've had a big week. Let me see here. My special came out on YouTube. Let me see. My special came out on YouTube, which was big. I've said I went to various streamers and they passed. And the frustrating thing for me is you don't know if they watched it. And you don't know, because when you say somewhere like a Netflix or an Amazon, when you say they passed, everyone that works there didn't pass, just the few people that make the decisions passed. So yeah, it's a little frustrating, but like I said, I think every comic that's a veteran believes they deserve a Netflix special. But you can always go to YouTube. So right now I got we're tracking. We're doing well. It's staying consistent. We were well over 100,000 within the first like 12 hours. So yeah, it's doing all right. Just chugging along. It's the thing about YouTube. You just want it to keep chugging. You don't want to have this big spike in the beginning and then it just drops. Because the more people watch it and the longer they watch it, the more algorithms it jumps into and gets recommended. Like when it's my special, I'm for sure reading all the comments. And one guy said he just had heart surgery and came out and it just popped up on his recommendations. So that's what you want. You want your special getting recommended. So if you haven't seen it, it's called Broken Family. We're going to start releasing clips next week. We wanted to let it just kind of sit for about 4 or 5 days with the special. And then we'll start cutting up the clips and you'll see different bits and pieces of it all over TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and stuff. So, but it's chugging along. My personal opinion after I watched it and I got to get in a group chat and chat live, I thought it was well paced. I thought it was it never dragged. I thought it looked good. I criticize my own specials. The only criticisms I would have is I felt like the audience was a little low because if you were there at the live show, they was with it. They was rocking. But I felt like when you watch it, I felt like the audience, sometimes the laughs, you didn't really hear it. And I don't know, that's a technical thing. And like I said, I'm a perfectionist, like most comics are when it comes to their specials. So I just wish the laughter would have been elevated a little bit. Because if you were there live, you knew that, man, they was killing. It was almost too loud when I walked out. It was almost like, whoa, bring it down a little bit. So that's one critique I have. And then the other one is, this is where I officially put the divorce to bed. No more divorce talk in my special and any of my, if you've seen me in the last 7-8 months, I don't really talk about my divorce anymore. I mean, people sometimes yell stuff out and I'll answer them. But as far as like written material, I don't really address the divorce anymore. I've got other stuff to talk about. I got new twins, new relationship, just current events, other stuff going on. So that's one thing, because when I did the special, I thought it would be out sooner. But when we were trying to sell it to various streamers, you're kind of like waiting on them. And I remember back in like May, I had the discussion with my agent and my manager, and I wanted to release it then. And they were like, no, let's wait. What's the harm in waiting if one of the streamers pick it up? And I was like, all right. So I waited. And my gut told me nobody was going to get it. And then people always ask, like, why? Why won't, let's say Netflix, why won't Netflix pick it up? And the answer I get, and I said on the Breakfast Club this week, the answer I get through the grapevine, I haven't ever got anybody on the phone with Netflix myself, is what I'm hearing is, since I'm a white guy, instead of just looking at me as a white funny comedian, Netflix looks at me like I'm an urban comedian, which there's some validity to that. Like when I first started, most of my fans were black because I was on BET. But as I progressed and I started releasing clips on social media, I've realized like my military jokes really hit like with that audience, and it gets shared amongst the military community, which in turn has crossed over my fan base a lot. And so instead of just looking at me as a funny comedian that has a fan base, I'm kind of put in a box from a white comedian that has a black fan base. So if they're going to give a special to a comedian with a black fan base, they're going to give it to a black comedian. And then I also think there's the unknown, like they don't know why this is like that. How does a white guy have a black fan base like this? We don't understand it. So that's what I've gotten. That's what I've been told. So until they can just watch it for what it is and just look, I mean, go to the audience. You'll see the audience is mixed in my specials. The last few, even when I'm on the road, if you go see me, I will say the comedy clubs is definitely probably 50-50 as far as my fans. Where I say the theaters, when I do the theater shows, that's where it's more probably 65-35, 65% black, 35% everybody else on the theater shows. But, you know, it is what it is. And you can either bitch and moan and complain and blame and say whatever, or you can be like, all right, we're going to put it on YouTube. We're going to pump the hell out of it. We're going to, it's a solid special. If you see it, it's network quality. And I own it. So there's not really an unhappy ending to this. But what I was getting at with the material, I feel like this should have been out already if we would have released it back in May or April. So, but it is what it is. We waited till October. We released it. But if you go see me live, there's no more divorce talk. I've so moved on from it. And even when I went on the Breakfast Club this week, you know, obviously I went on to promote my special, but I felt like some of the stuff they asked me, like they asked me about black girl energy. I really was lost because I was like, what are you talking about? And I forgot on my special, I talked about, there's this black girl energy. And I was like, oh, I was really stuck there for a second. I was like, yeah, so I forgot my own joke. Happens. But even when I was on the Breakfast Club and I watched it back, and I love those guys. I love Envy. I love Charlemagne. Jess wasn't there. Then they had a Lauren young lady that was there. She was giving me, she was coming at me. She was giving me a lot of shit. But even when they were talking about the divorce, I go, man, it feels so. It felt so like I've already talked about this. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But I had to go like, oh, wait a minute. We're pumping my special. It felt like a movie that I shot a year ago that's just now getting released. And so they're asking me questions about the movie. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Because that's how I feel. That's really what movies are. You shoot it, and then by the time it comes out, it's been so long. You're like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So that's how I felt when I was on the Breakfast Club. But the interview went great. I saw a lot of people giving the Lauren girl a lot of shit because they were like, she keeps pressing Gary. She keeps saying stuff. And I'm going, but that makes for good interviews because you get to talking about it. Whether you like her or you dislike her, if you type on the keyboard, whatever you type, it's engagement, and it means you watched it, which is numbers, which in the end, that's the goal. So yeah, I thought it was good. I never felt like she was had an agenda. I never felt like she was coming at me sideways or she was trying to get me caught up. I felt like, look, this is a black female asking me tough questions, pressing me, and I'm having fun with it. And at no point did I ever felt personally attacked or why would they have her on here? Why she asked me things like that? I never felt none of it. So rewatch the interview and tell me what you guys think. And yeah, I mean, I'm always open to what people think, especially if you're going to do a podcast and you're because the podcast is, the goal is you're talking to your core fans and you want the feedback from them. And so that's what I want. I want to feed my fan base. Just like last week when I asked you guys your opinion on the Chelsea Handler thing. And some people were pressing me like, yo, you were wrong. You should have put the blacks in the back. And I think looking back on it, my story, maybe you say blacks in the back, it's triggering. And maybe that's where I was wrong. Maybe that's where I should have worded that different. I should have just said, we just put white people in the first two rows. Because that's all she was going to see at Montreal. And I should have just said, we put anybody else in the third and fourth row. And maybe that would have been less triggering. So that's what I'm saying. I listen to you guys and I hear you guys. So I think for the Chelsea Handler story on last week's podcast, when I said I moved black and Spanish, aka Mexican people, because we're in Sacramento, to the back, it triggered some black people. You know what it didn't trigger? It didn't trigger any Mexican people. No Latinos was like, are you moving Latinos to the back? Because like when I finally explained it in full, when I say back, The Sacramento punchline has like 6 to 8 rows. So when I say back, I mean I'm just pushing them back to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th row. It sounds like I'm moving all the way to the back. And that's triggering because of Rosa Parks and back of the bus and all that other stuff. I get it. So I should have just said, to make it visually more how it really was the night of the show, we're going to put white couples and specifically older white people in the first 2 rows. Anybody else, we're moving to row 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th row. And then I don't think it would have sounded as bad and people wouldn't have been so triggered. So, yeah, listen. And speaking of triggering, the Breakfast Club, like Charlemagne asked me how I got so cool with black people because I was raised by my dad who's a bigot. And I'm going, well, I wasn't raised by my dad, first of all. He didn't raise me. He wasn't around. But when he said, I go, I don't think my dad's a racist. I said he's a functional bigot. And I thought I explained that. I said, I don't think he hates black people as a whole. I just think some of the stuff he says, he doesn't realize what he's saying. He doesn't realize that, that can be upsetting to black people, or in particular my daughter, because, my dad on his Facebook page, he'd always make these posts that were like, I don't know why he made them. Honestly, he was just like, for instance, he made one. He's like, well, there's a black kid. Why isn't there? He made a post like, God, I'd be called racist if I said we should have a White History Month. Why isn't there a White History Month? And I'm going, why does that even bother you if there's a Black History Month? I don't understand why it bothers you. And he, for instance, like, he came to visit the summer of 2020, which is middle of COVID, middle of Black Lives Matter movement. And me and my daughter went to a Black Lives Matter march. And we was in Sacramento when we did it. And there was like 50,000 people. And what I told him at the march, I said, listen, I know you think Black Lives Matter is BS, which we found out later, the people that organized it were skimming money. So he wasn't 100% wrong in that, but it was more the movement. And I said, you're not coming here to say you support Black Lives Matter. You're coming here to support your granddaughter, who was my daughter, who wanted to go. So he was like, yeah. And he got it. And then it was such a, I thought, positive trip for him. And my daughter got to sit out back and talk. And she even said, I remember her saying, Grandpa, I don't think all cops are racist. She goes, I want to get rid of the bad ones and I want to call them out. And I listened to the conversation and I was like, it was a really productive, good conversation. And then for some reason, as soon as he got back to Ohio, he started making all these anti-police brutality, black people stop breaking the law and you won't get arrested type posts. And I'm going, why? The timing of it was so bad. It wasn't he made the post, but it was that you just left. You just got good with your granddaughter. And then you came back and made the decision. And it wasn't like he made one, he doubled down. It was like 10 of them. And I didn't understand it. And I didn't get it. So it was things like that I say he doesn't realize what he's doing. Like, or maybe he does and he doesn't care. But to have mixed grandkids and at one point you had a black daughter-in-law that was active in your life. Some of the stuff he posted, I was scratching my head. Yeah, it was just disappointing. So that's what I meant when I was saying stuff like, I don't think he realizes it. And I was saying, like, there was no black people at his wedding. When he got married to his wife now, I was there. There was no black people there. I've never seen black people at his house to visit other than my family, or I brought him over. But if I did, he was cordial, he's fun, he's cool, but I don't think he's actively reaching out. He doesn't have any black people in his core circle, so to speak. So, but I saw my sister made a comment on the Breakfast Club's page, and she's not happy. And I haven't talk to her, and I just got cool with my twin sisters. And those are my half sisters. We have the same dad, but not the same mom. And, I wonder if she had actually saw what I said. I said, no, I don't think he's a racist. I think he's a functional bigot. And maybe I could have used a different terminology, but that's something, I don't know if I made that word up or I don't know if there's another word I could use because, some of the stuff he said is just so out of line. And of course, my sister's going to speak up for him. I don't know if she needed to make a comment. That's her choice, but of course, she's got a different version of him than I do. She's got a different relationship than him than I do. He raised her. He went to all her events, took her to all her soccer games, her recitals, her everything. He was there every day with her. So, of course, her relationship is completely different than mine because she got the dad I never had. I never saw that side of him. I still would have to beg him to go do stuff. Even as an adult, I felt like for a long time, I was reaching out, trying to get this relationship or to turn him into some version of a dad that I wanted that he just was not going to be. And so, yeah. So of course, she's going to stand up for her dad. So I understand it. I don't get mad about that. So hopefully me and her can have a discussion about it. But I still stand by what I say. We don't have to, I think as adults, you don't have to agree on everything, but I can tell my truth and she can tell her truth, and that's all you can do. And some people have a hard time looking in the mirror. You're looking at my dad's like, I don't even know how old he is. Is he 70? He might be 70 already. I don't know. But old men, you can't. They're not going to change their ways at this point. So for me to have a discussion to tell him how that can come across, I don't know if he'd be open to it. If we ever talk again. I don't even know if we'll ever talk again. So, yeah. And it's funny because I got back in touch with my sisters a while, a couple months ago. And I told them, I said, listen, I got a special coming out. And I go pretty hard on them. And if you watch Broken Family on YouTube, you see I go in on my dad pretty hard and his wife. And yeah, I was coming from a hurt place, and I didn't say anything that didn't happen. Like, he did cuss me out over a Reds game. He did leave me a voicemail cussing me out, sent me a text cussing me out, and then we got on the phone, he started cussing me out. And so all that was true. And so, yeah, I snapped. I snapped on that special. I snapped on her. I snapped on him. I snapped on everybody that I felt did me wrong. So, I don't even know what to say. But I warned my sister, not warned, but I told her, I was like, listen, I go in hard. So we're getting cool again, but I just want you to know when this special comes out, I go off. And I think when the interview happened on the Breakfast Club, I don't know if she's seen the special or not, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough when somebody talks about your parents, even when it's a sibling. It's like you can let it go, or you can choose to. I'm gonna stand up for them. So I understand that. I understand she stand up for him, but it's like with me and my ex. I was a cheater, and I was wrong. I was wrong in all that. So I can't be mad. I can't defend my actions. I can't be like, that's not who I am. Yeah, that's who I was. That's exactly who I was. So, yeah, there's nothing I can say. I just got to say, hey, I can apologize and say I was wrong, but I can't fault her for being mad or calling me out. I mean, that's what I was. The only thing I ever said was, I don't think her going in on social media helped my relationship with the kids at all. That's the only thing. I was completely wrong in my actions, but I always thought, we could tell them in private. We could work this out in private. We didn't have to play it out on social media. But I'm an entertainer, so I'm somewhat of a hypocrite for even saying something like that. After I just blasted my dad and went on the Breakfast Club and totally fed into what they were asking. So, it just is what it is. I'm really at a point in my life where I'm just like, life be lifing, good and bad. Just whatever happens, roll with it. Try not to get too mad about anything. Try not to get... It's almost like stand-up. You're never as bad as your worst set, and you're never as good as your best set. So in life, I'm just like, if people want to come at me, it's fine. We can still talk. I watched that Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix, and that's how I feel like. Like, yeah, you can be mad, but we can still... Vince is always like, we can still work together later. That's how I feel. Like, you can be mad. You can defend our dad all you want, but I'm still open to talking about it. And we could sit down and you could tell me that bothered me, that pissed me off. I didn't agree with it. It's all cool. I'm open, And since the special came out and everything else, I've forgiven everybody. I've forgiven my mom, my dad, everybody. I don't, is what it is. I know that sounds odd after you watch my special and I go all the way in, but when I recorded it, that's how I felt. And I didn't lie about anything. Not in this special. Everything I said happened. The Reds game, him cussing me out, all of it. It happened. So, but like I said, this special, I can officially put my divorce to bed. No more jokes. I think it's old news. I think for sure she's moved on. I moved on. I'm good with my son again. We're talking all the time, texting, sending each other pics, keeping up with each other, planning on seeing them. We're going to see each other again next month. And I told him I don't want to go more than a month without seeing him from here on out. So whether I got to go to California, he's got to come to me, or we meet somewhere where I'm performing, I just want to keep that relationship going. Why he's single with no kids? Because once he gets older, it ain't that easy. So, yeah. So, enough about that. We are in election time. When this airs, a week from now, we'll see what's going to happen with this country. I just feel it doesn't matter who's going to win. There's going to be chaos. Hopefully there's no violence. Cities won't be burning. Nobody's rushing the Capitol or anything. There's no hope. There's no assassination attempts. Did I say that right? Assassination attempts. I'm not leaving the house on election night. In fact, that's why I'm leaving the country. I'm going to leave the country for about 5 days and let this shit just get over. Just blow over, bro. I don't see how this is going to end well. I'll put it that way. Something's going to happen. Either way, whether Vice President Harris wins or Trump wins, it's either going to be the election was stolen, there was some shady shit, and then what makes it bad is when whoever wins, the other side's going to gloat so hard. And that's what gets people going more than anything. So if Vice President Harris wins, they're all going to be going off on Trump. Yeah. And if Trump wins, they're all going to be going off on Harris and people that hate Trump. So it's just going to be ugly. Okay, so let me talk about Tony Hinchcliffe. The stuff he said at the rally in New York. This is my thing. And I said in the Breakfast Club, Tony Hinchcliffe is a roaster. His whole podcast, Kill Tony, it's all about roasting people. If you saw him on the Tom Brady roast, he was roasting people. That's what he does. He's a stand-up, but he's a roaster. So why would you hire a roaster when you know that's what he does and then are trying to backtrack and Me personally, I would have never hired Tony Hinchcliffe for an event like this, especially right before the election when you're trying to galvanize black voters, Puerto Rican voters, Asian voters, Anybody, black and white voters, are just trying to get everybody to vote. Why would you bring a roaster in to an audience that isn't familiar with them? No one's going to go out to the masses, and all these people that have never heard of Tony Hinchcliffe are now like snapping. He's not a racist. He's a comedian. He's a comedian that goes after everybody. And even I said on the Breakfast Club, like the Puerto Rican joke, I didn't get. There really wasn't a punchline to it. So I was like, I just didn't think it was that strong of a joke. I've had jokes that wasn't that strong. The black guy with carving watermelons, I was like, that was like, boom, boom. That was comedy 101. Black people, fried chicken, watermelon, Kool-Aid, white people, can't dance, good credit. It's like, that's comedy 101, Asian people can't drive. Mexicans have a lot of babies. Like he just fed it like, it wasn't anything like brilliant that he said, but the one that got him was the Puerto Rican and the garbage. And that just set people off. Bad Bunny's talking about it. All these Puerto Ricans are talking about it. And I'm like, but if you know who he is, that's what he does. Anybody in that Kill Tony Austin scene, that seems to be what they do. David Lucas, that's what he does. And my thing is, I'll defend comedians to the end to be able to say what they want. I'm not going to sit here and say, how dare you? For this instance, they just shouldn't have hired Tony. And whoever hired him is the one that should be getting the blame, because he just did what he always does. It's no different than if you hired Trevor Noah. He's going to do a lot of political shit. D.L. Hughley would not have been good for that room. D.L. Hughley would have been good for the Democratic room, but not that room. So it's like, you got to know who you're hiring. You hired a guy who has made his whole career and his whole name off roasting people. And he went and roasted people. And so my thing is, it's not going to hurt him, because in the end, the people that are mad, the people like, I've never heard of you, you were never going to pay to see him anyways. And every comedian, the goal is to make money on the road. And well, now we're in the internet age. And you're just probably going to his page now, which you're clicking, whether you're liking or disliking, you're watching, which means he's making more money, which means his name's out there. And this will all blow over. It won't be a huge deal in a year from now. He'll answer for it. His hardcore fans are still going to back him. They're still going to love him. And that's, like I said, you got to feed your fan base. Whatever they want, you keep feeding that, and then you hopefully piggyback and other people come on. But nobody's going to be boycotting them. Nobody's going to, it only helped his career. It only helped. And then it's so funny though, because, J.D. Vance, when he said, when did we become so sensitive and stuff? I go, well, what? We've been sensitive for the last 5-6 years. Every comedian is someone that's edgy has had someone say they should be canceled. I've had it. They came after me 7-8 years ago, special needs people, because I used the R word in one of my specials. They've been trying to cancel people forever. Yeah, what do you mean, when did we get so sensitive? We've been sensitive. Comedians are the ones that aren't. And any comedian out there that's upset with Tony Hinchcliffe, please get out of our business. Don't be a comedian. It's like, that's what we do. We talk shit about people. I just think it was the wrong setting, especially when you're trying to get voters. You hired a guy that just offends everybody. And what did he do? He offended everybody. In particular, Puerto Ricans that probably don't know who Tony Hinchcliffe is. So I was like, I'd be mad at the person that hired him. And there's no way he went up there and winged it. I guarantee you they went over that material with him. So, you hired a roaster and he roasted. If that would have been on one of those Netflix or Comedy Central roasts, no matter who it was, it would have killed. But in that instance, it's almost like when they hire you for a corporate gig, or sometimes they'll hire you for a college gig. And they tell you, don't say this, don't say this, don't say this. And you're like, all right, I won't. There was a guy I was at a college years ago, 20 plus years ago. There was a comedian, I can't remember his name, Vince something. What he was doing, he was going to colleges and he was raping college girls. And they couldn't find him for the longest because he'd come in town for one day and then dip. So they were like, who is this guy? They didn't realize it was a serial college rapist. And I can't remember how they cracked the case. But let me try to look it up. But they found out, oh, this guy keeps, every time he comes to a college, there's a rape case against him. There's a girl, not a rape case against her. Every time he goes to college, there's a girl saying she got raped. And they finally put 2 and 2 together and they found it was him. And hey, thank you to our sponsor, BlueChew. I know what you're thinking. Hey, does BlueChew work? Do I really need it? Well, why don't you try it for a month and see? Because I'm telling you, you're going to love it. And better yet, your partner's going to love it. And that's more important than you loving it. Listen, you could be missing out on the best sex of your life. With BlueChew, men everywhere are excited to see the postman. Because when your package has arrived, your package has arrived. They say there's nothing sexier than confidence. And BlueChew will help you give you that confidence where it counts. And I ain't got to tell you where that is, but y'all know where it is. It's above your ankles and below your brain. BlueChew wants you to have the confidence to perform at your best. So discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for my listeners. Try BlueChew free when you use promo code GETSOME at checkout. All you got to do is pay $5 for the shipping. That's BlueChew.com. Promo code GETSOME to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank BlueChew for sponsoring this podcast. Boom! Go get that BlueChew and start having the best sex of your life. Yeah. Hold on. Was it Champ? Was that his name? Hold on. Yeah. Vince Champ. Okay, let's see what the Wikipedia says. Vince Champ, a former comedian and convicted rapist. He was the winner of Star Search in 1992. In 1997, he was identified as a serial rapist when his DNA and tour schedule were matched up with a series of rapes on college campuses. He is currently serving a 34-year sentence in Nebraska State Penitentiary. His projected release date is 2033, after which he will begin 2 consecutive life sentences in Iowa. So, he won $100,000 at Comedian Stars in 1992. So I tell you all that, which is kind of interesting story. I'm shocked nobody's ever done like a documentary on it. It's wild to me. I say all that to say this. I went to a college that he had been to right after they arrested him and convicted him. And they pulled me aside and they said, look, I know your contract says you can say whatever you want, but stay away from anything that is rough sex, rape oriented. They wanted me to say sex period, but college kids, they kind of want to hear that. But they was like, stay away from any of that. And I was like, that's when I found out. I go, why? And they go, a girl on our campus got raped by Vince. And I go, oh shit. So of course I did what they asked me to do. I didn't go there. Not that I had any jokes like that anyways, but they pulled me aside just to make sure. And afterwards, like a lot of times back in the day when I did colleges, the college kids would pick you up from the airport, take it to your hotel, they take it to the venue, and then usually you would get something to eat with the student union or the black student union. That's where I was getting most of my work back then. You got to eat with a bunch of the kids afterwards. And back then I was in my early 20s, so I was damn near their age. So they was like, after my show, they was like, nah, you're going back to your hotel. Do not try to party on campus. Like I could have pushed it, but they was like, nope, go back to your hotel. Don't be trying to talk to any girls. Don't be trying to meet up with anybody later. We're not taking out to eat. It was just they were being cautious after this just happened. So that's an instance where, yeah, they warned me ahead of time what not to talk about, even though it wasn't in my contract or anything. So I was like, Yeah, that's a while. I'm surprised that Vince Champ story hasn't ever made. I mean, everything else is on Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime. I'm surprised nobody has ever made a movie or documentary about that, because that's such a wild story. I mean, you got a comedian coming in and out of town and all over the country raping girls, and they couldn't figure it out. And when his DNA was finally found at one of the colleges, then another college called, then another college called, then another college, and they tracked his tour schedule and was like, oh shit, this guy's like everywhere raping girls. It was such a wild story. 20. That was right when I first started doing stand-up. I heard about this. So it's just an instance. So anyways, I guess we'll end this podcast with sports. First of all, the Dawyne Wade statue. It's kind of funny, but people are still missing the point. The motherfucker got a statue. Like, regardless of what his face looked like on the statue, Dawyne Wade got a statue. And when you get a statue, you say, I got a motherfucking statue. And I don't think Dwayne's bothered by it at all. Kind of looked like he was turned into almost like a Thanos, but he was transforming it. The motherfucker, he got a statue. So what I heard was Dawyne was there the whole time they were designing the statue. But when they dip it in the bronzer, or I guess it changes the face a little bit, or I don't know, just, I don't want to say deformed, but it's not what you first thought of when it was carved. Because I saw pictures of when they were carving it, and Dawyne was right there, and it looked more like his face. But I guess when they dip it, I don't know if it swells up or some shit melts off or something, but the best picture, that we'll show on here is LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dawyne, and they got Dwayne's face. And then there's one with him and Gabrielle at their wedding picture, and it's got the statue face. So, I mean, there were some good memes with it, but just have fun with it. But in the end, motherfucker got a statue, bro. You know, only legends get statues. Kobe, Magic, Shaq, D. Wade, Ray Lewis. Only legends get statues. That's what I know. I ain't got no statue. I got inducted in my high school Hall of Fame last year. Boom. Get some, Talawanda High School. You see it. But I ain't got no statue in front of the school. So, or in front of a basketball arena that millions of people run through every year. Gonna walk by the statue. So yeah, let's not forget sight. You only get a statue when you a motherfucking legend. All right? That part. And I guess my beloved Bengals. I don't know what happened with that Philly game. NFL is a game of inches. They went up, drove down, had like a 40-play drive, 10 minutes, ended with a touchdown, Jamar Chase. I was like, we on our way. We in. And then every NFL game, it's a couple plays. And the big thing, when McPherson missed that field goal, we were up 10-3. Would have went up 13-3, and Philly's got to drive all the way down the field. It's not what happened. Missed the field goal. Philly gets the ball in damn near the 50. Went down. All of a sudden it's 10-10, and we don't have no time to get the ball back. Philly gets the ball in the second half, and they never punt. I don't know what's up with that defense, but no pussy. If I'm them, like, you guys can't go out. You're not allowed. You got to start stopping people, all right, before you can. So, ladies, don't give it up to the defense at all. Close them legs till they start stopping people. So, yeah, I'm going to stop you, okay? Now, if you want this, you got to start stopping people, all right? So, all the ladies in Cincinnati, don't give up no pussy to anybody on the Bengals defense. And if you're married, wives, you got to do this for the team. Don't put out. If they can't get none, and the only way they're going to get some is they got to stop people. We got to get this dub. Watch how they play different. Trust and believe. Don't give it up, ladies. Don't. This is frustrating. We got the Raiders this week. If we don't win this game, just trade everybody. Obviously not Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase. Don't trade them, but trade everybody else. Because it's a lost season if we can't beat the Raiders. Because their schedule lightens up, bro. We got the Titans. Their schedule, we got the Cowboys are playing like shit. The schedule is not like Murderer's Row the rest of the year. We got the Browns again, and they got Jameis, but it'll be a roller coaster with him all year, I guarantee you. We're still in it though. We just gotta get to playoffs. This is what I'm saying. If I'm just being a realist and not rose-colored glasses with my team, I think we're gonna get the 7th playoff spot, and we're gonna play the Texans in the first round in Houston. Calling it. I've called everything wrong this season, so this probably isn't going to happen. But if I look at our schedule, who's ahead of us? Right now, we're the 9th seed if the season ended today. At 3-5, we're the 9th seed. That's what's crazy. I say we're gonna end 10-7, maybe 9-8, and we're gonna have the 7th seed, and we're gonna play the Texans in the first round. Book it. Maybe not. But we'll see what happens. It's just such a frustrating season, man. So much hope. I'm going to go to the game Sunday. I just can't give up on my team, man. I can't do it. I try, but they keep pulling me back in, baby. So anyways, this weekend, Atlantic City on Friday, Baltimore, Maryland Live Casino on Saturday. So Atlantic City on Friday, Maryland Live Casino on Saturday, and then I'm taking a week off. I'm getting out of the country. Election week. I got to be out of here. I will be watching my Bengals and Ravens next Thursday. But, and then, next week, the week after that, in 2 weeks, I'll be in Detroit on November 15th. And then November 16th, I'm in Hammond, Indiana at the Horseshoe Casino. So, all right, y'all. This is Gary Owen to Get Some Podcast. Broken Family, YouTube. Watch it.